Are you looking for a crochet carrot pattern that is really cute at the top, really cute at the bottom, and is easy and fast to do? This step-by-step crochet tutorial is for you. Hi, it's Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are making these amazing, easy, and sweet crochet carrots, perfect for Easter decor for your mantle, or for any time of year, for spring, for fall. These are fantastic. And they just use regular yarn, size 4 worsted weight acrylic. They're nice and closed at the top, and you can customize them to make them into any size, any length of carrot that you want. All included. I'll tell you exactly how to do it step by step in this easy crochet tutorial, perfect for beginners. So you'll need your yarn, 2 different kinds, orange and a green. You will also need some stuffing, some hollow fiber, or polyester filling, depending what you call it in your country. You will need a needle. You'll need a handful of stitch markers if you're new. These are optional. You don't need them if you are an experienced crocheter, but if you worry that you're putting your stitches in the right spot, these stitch markers will help you. And I'm also using a 5mm crochet hook for my size 4 worsted weight acrylic yarn. And you'll also need a pair of scissors. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. To start making our carrot, we're going to start by making the top of our carrot, and we can make the top of our carrots, these stalks, any length we want them to be, starting with a really long. You can have a long top to your carrot, or you could have a short top to your carrot. It's up to you. Any combination at all. If you want super tall ones, this is a chain 70. If you want shorter ones, this is a chain 30, and anywhere in between, you can just alternate by chain 5. So if it's a chain 70, the next one could be a chain 60 or a chain 65, and then just kind of keep alternating it, making whatever length of stalks you want them, where you want to have on the top of your carrot. Or you can make a whole bunch and then group them together so you're happy with how they look. If you are looking for a faster carrot, these with chenille yarn or blanket yarn are also really great. I'll link this tutorial in the description as well. So starting with our green yarn, we want to leave about a 7-inch tail. We need it to be long enough to make a knot later. So make a slip knot leaving a long enough tail. About 7 inches is great for me. Pop that onto your hook and then make a chain any length you want your stalk to be, up to a chain 70. I'll be doing a chain 30 for the tutorial. So chaining 1, 2, 3. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com, and all of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. 28, 29, and 30. Now into the second chain, so this little chain right there, that's where we're going to start, and we're going to make 1 slip stitch into 4 chains. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 slip stitches. And now into the next stitch, well, into each of the next 6 chains, all the way down here, we're going to do 4 single crochets into each. So 4 single crochets into 6 stitches. So there's 3 and 4. And we're going to do that into the next stitch as well. And into the next stitch. This is our 3rd chain. And don't worry if it looks all weird, it will. The next 4 single crochets into the next chain. And into the next stitch, 4 single crochets. We're doing it 6 times. Oops. And now this is our last one. This is number 6. 4 single crochets. Now another way, if you lose track of how many times you've worked into your, or how many times you've put your 4 single crochets, if you are looking at your curl and underneath your work you see 2 layers, good enough. That's great. We don't really have to keep going. That is what we want. So as soon as we kind of get around the corner and there's 2 layers and our little tail sitting there, perfect. We're good. So now into the next chain, 3 single crochets. Into the next chain, 2 single crochets. And into the next chain, 1 single crochet. So that is the little top of our carrot. Keep in mind, if you have a different stitch count or you do it a little differently, you add more, you do less, it's fine. All carrots are different, so a little bit of different here or there is a good thing. Now here is our cute chain. We want to be working into the back loops now. So turning those pretty little V's over, or at least to the side, we can see our back loops. So there's a back loop right there and right here, all the way down. We want to slip stitch in to the second back loop. So don't worry about getting into that very first one. It doesn't matter. We're going to get into the second back loop right there. So pop your hook in and slip stitch. And now we're going to slip stitch all the way down the chain, 1 slip stitch into each chain. This also makes your chain a little bit shorter than it was in the beginning. So if you saw that chain 70, you're like, wow, it does shrink up. So 1 slip stitch into each back loop. You can pause the video and keep working ahead. I'll meet you when you get to the end of your chain. So work into that very last back loop. And then chain 1 to secure your yarn. Now cut your tail. We want to leave about 6 or 7 inches. And pull your hook up and your yarn through. Snug that down, and that finishes your very first carrot top leaf. For mine, I have between 3 to 5 of these per top of the carrot. So this is one with 5. This is one with 5. And this is one with 4. So if they're shorter, you can get away with less. If they're taller, you have to put a little bit more, or they can look a little bit thin. So pause the video, make a whole bunch of these, whatever length you want your stalks to be, and I'll meet you back when you have 4 or 5 that you like together. Then you can lay out your carrot tops so that where we finished, our tails are lined up where our last slip stitches are. So it's just in a nice, neat little row. And then you can pick up your tails. And we're going to make a knot. We want our knot to be right up here, right up at the top, not onto the crochet, but right below it. That's why our tails are nice and long, so we can easily make that knot. We want to make sure we have all the strands nice and tight together, and then make that knot right up near the top of your crochet. Not on top, but really nearby. Like that, and you can pull it tight, nice and snug, and that is exactly what we want. Now we're ready to start making the carrot. To make the orange part of the carrot, we're going to start by making a magic ring. So if you're not familiar with magic ring or you're not comfortable with it, just take your time and practice. It's really handy to do it, and I'm here every step of the way with you, so give it a try. You just put that tail over your non-dominant hand and hold it on your ring finger with your thumb. Wrap it around those top 2 fingers, making an X, and around that 3rd finger underneath your thumb as well. Turn your hand over, and you'll have a short strand and a long strand. Grab your crochet hook, hook side facing down, slide it underneath the short strand and on top of the long strand. Bring the long strand underneath the short strand and turn your hook so that hook is facing you and that loop is up on the fat part of your hook. Release your thumb a little bit just so that long strand can slide, and turn your hook so you can grab that long strand. Now you can pinch everything underneath your hook. Just move your fingers up there and bring that long strand through the loop on your hook. Let go of everything, and there is your magic ring. So give that a try and just practice. And we're going to start with a chain 2. 1 and 2. So that doesn't count as a stitch, it just gives us a little bit of space. Now you can adjust the numbers of double crochets you do here to start. The more you do, like if you did 16 double crochets, that would be a large carrot. If you did 12 double crochets, that would be a small carrot. So we're going to be doing 12 double crochets for just a normal carrot. So 12 double crochets into the ring going over the tail. So you can pause the video and get your 12 double crochets done, or whatever number of double crochets you're doing. I've done up to a 16, and it looks like a big fat carrot. So pause the video and get your 12 double crochets done. And there is 12. You can pull your tail a little bit, but we still want to leave that ring open. And this is the pretty side of our work, pretty side facing up. Grab your tails, or grab your stems, I suppose, and that knot. We want to poke our tails through that ring, just through the center. And we want the knot to go underneath also, like that. Right? Now, make a bigger loop. You can take that hook out for a minute. We want to spread out these double crochets. So just wiggle them around to fill up more of that circle before we shrink our tail. So I'm just holding the knot on the bottom side of our magic ring and pulling the magic ring. So it's going to snug down in between the knot and the stems. That's how we're going to hold our carrot top in place. So just give it a pull, nice and snug. Great if you're using acrylic yarn. It'll be just like that. And you can open it a little bit. You want to make sure you don't have a gap where you started and ended at that join. That's why we moved all those double crochets around, because that'll close up that gap. If you do have a gap there, you can just use your tail to sew it in. You can sew back and forth to shrink that up. But as you make more carrots, you'll get really good at wiggling those double crochets around so that when you're finished or you're at this stage, you don't have any gaps right there. So put that loop of yarn back on your hook, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of that first double crocheted join. So not into the chain, we're leaving that chain. Into the top of the first stitch to join, a slip stitch and a chain 1. So into this very first stitch right here, we're going to make 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around, but also into this join. So 1 single crochet right where we are, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. When you get back to where we started, I'm going to make a single crochet into that same stitch at the join. So we did a single crochet into the join after, and we're going to do one before. So that is adding a stitch. That is an increase. But we like it. So there's our single crochet. Now, you can kind of flip it, and you can see the top of your carrot is looking like the top of a carrot. So that is great. Now, our next stitch is going to be right over here. There's a tiny little chain there. We're ignoring that, jumping straight over into this stitch. 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet into the next stitch as well. And the next stitch. We just want to move away a little bit because we did an increase right at that join. And we're going to do an increase again right now. So into the next stitch, 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Just like that. And we want to put another increase on the other side of the carrot. So usually I just skip 5 and then I do an increase. It depends. If you're doing a bigger carrot, you can just eyeball it. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I'll do an increase into the next. So 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Just like that. Now our tails, we can kind of deal with them now before our carrot gets too big. So pull that center tail really, really tight. And you can grab one of your tails from the stem, from the top of your carrot, and give those a little double knot. You can sew in the center tail as well if you'd like. We don't want the center tail coming loose. That's the most important. Okay, so that is nice and knotted. We can go ahead and trim these. You could leave these in your carrot for stuffing, but I do find, if I could find you one, you can see a little bit on the inside. It might be a little bit green. You might be able to see the yarn, and I'm not a fan of that really. So I'm just going to cut mine off, leaving about 1-inch tails. And then we can flip it over, and we are ready to continue building our carrot. So we've done our increases, that's it. Now we're going to build the part that's the same. So we finished this little cap. Now we can extend this part, just doing single crochets all the way until you want to start decreasing into the tip of the carrot. Depending how long you want your carrot to be, would be how many rows you're doing right now of just continuing with the single crochet. So just kind of have a plan by you making a long carrot, a fat carrot, short carrot, and then make as many rows of single crochet as you like. Doesn't matter. All carrots are different. So you can pause the video and do rows and rows and rows, around and around and around, of 1 single crochet into each stitch. If you want to keep track of where you are, you could pop in a stitch marker just into one of those posts so it's not in the way of your crochet, just down there. You could pop in a stitch marker and then keep going. Aim for around 10 rows, between 8, it depends on what shape carrot you want. So between 6 rows to 15 rows, it's up to you. So pause the video, keep working around until the middle section of your carrot is the length you want it to be. Another way to measure is just with your finger. You would want your finger to be about as long as your finger, and then we could taper it from there. Even if we're doing a short carrot, it could be that long, and then we could taper it at the end. But up to you. Pause the video, and I'll see you when you have made the center part of your carrot the length you want it to be. So there's my 10 more rows, a little longer than my finger. Now we are ready to do some decreases. So you'll need a couple more stitch markers. So now we're ready to do a decrease, which is a single crochet decrease or an SC2 tog. So put your hook in to the next stitch and bring your yarn back just like you're doing a single crochet, but instead of doing the single crochet, pop your hook into the next stitch and bring the yarn back. So you'll have 3 loops on your hook, and now we're going to wrap our yarn and finish those together. So that is our decrease. I'm just going to single crochet into the next couple stitches just to get the yarn out of the way so we can see what's up. So take a stitch marker and you can just pop it into one of those strands that goes along the side just to mark where it is. And now we're going to do it on the other side over here. And that's if you want your carrots to be straight. If you want some bent carrots, then just put your increases any which way you want. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to even them out. So single crochet into each stitch until you get to the other side of that folded carrot, opposite side from the stitch marker. And now into these 2 stitches. The next 2 stitches, we're going to do the same thing. So start a single crochet into the first stitch, start a single crochet into the second, 3 loops on your hook, wrap and take off all 3 loops. And you can pop a stitch marker into that loop along the side. We don't want to go into the top because we have to crochet into that as we go around, but just that loop on the side so we can see where it is. And then when your carrot's folded in half, you can see that those are on the side, on the equal distance apart, I suppose. So now keep going. One single crochet into each stitch. You can decide how long you're going to be doing this for again. If you want a super long carrot, maybe do 4 rows or 5 rows. If you want a regular kind of decrease, do 2 rows of single crochet. It's up to you. You can totally customize the look of your own carrot. So pause the video, keep working around, and I'll meet you back. So I've done 2 rows on top of my stitch marker, and just pull up a bigger loop and take your hook out. We are going to stuff the carrot before we do more decreases. So take your hollow fiber, and you just want to take little bits of it. You don't want to take a big piece. It just stuffs nicer, and get it right down around that knot at the very bottom of your carrot. And you can kind of poke your finger around to get the stuffing around that yarn a little bit, and then just fill it up with little bits of hollow fiber. No, I don't want to fill it up all the way. I want to leave it a little bit, like 2 rows down below, so I don't snag any of that hollow fiber with my hook. I don't want any of it coming out. So that's all right, just having it poke down inside. We are ready to start another round of decreases. So into the next stitch, we're going to start our single crochet. And into the next stitch after that, we're going to start a single crochet. So we have 3 loops on our hook. Wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. Now you can pop in a stitch marker, or you can move that other stitch marker up and just slide a stitch marker into that stitch. If you are an experienced crocheter, you don't have to use stitch markers at all. You can just wing it and make a gorgeous carrot. But if you're worried about where you're putting your decreases, go ahead and use a stitch marker. Now on this side, on top of that stitch marker below, I'm going to make another decrease. And I'll pop in another stitch marker. And now keep going for 2 more rows, or however many rows you want to. Your carrot, your rows. When you get back to 2 rows on top of that last stitch marker, make a bigger loop and take that hook out. We are ready to do a little more stuffing down inside before that hole gets a little too tiny. So just take little puffs and stuff your carrot. At the top, make sure it is down below your stitches. And we are ready to keep going. So into the next stitch, start your single crochet, but leave it on your hook. And into the next stitch, start a single crochet, leaving it on your hook. Wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. And you could go ahead and pop in another stitch marker, or move a stitch marker up from down here. We don't need those anymore. And now keep going until you get to the other side of our carrot. And now into the next 2 stitches here, we're also going to do a decrease. So starting 2 single crochets and finishing them together. Yes, you can pop in a stitch marker. And then 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around for 2 rows. So now you can pause the video again and keep working your way around, or for as many rows as you want for your carrot. Your shape, you can decide on it. So pause the video and I'll see you when you're ready to do more decreases. When you have 2 rows on top of your stitch marker, make another big loop. and we are going to stuff it again before we do those decreases. So always stuff before your decreases. And when it gets small, I can still use my finger now, but for the next time around, a pen might really help you, or a pencil. Now we're ready to do our decreases. And you can also poke your finger into the carrot just to hold that stuffing down so it doesn't get in the way of your stitches. So there's our decrease. You can pop in a stitch marker or move a stitch marker up. And we get around to the other side. And we can do our decrease on the other side. So starting a single crochet into 2 stitches and finishing them both together. And now we can go around for 2 more rows. Well, I could meet you back. You can pause the video, and I'll meet you back when you are ready to decrease again. Now when we get around, I have 2 rows on top of my stitch marker. Pull your hook up. Then you can grab a pencil or something that's going to fit inside the tip of your carrot, right in that little hole, and use a pen or a pencil or a pencil crayon or a chopstick just to get it down in the top of the carrot. And now you want to stuff it quite well because we're going to wiggle this down. This is the last time we can add stuffing. So we have to put in enough stuffing for what we have and also for the tip that we're going to be putting onto the carrot. You just want it to feel a little bit firm, but still out of the way. Yeah, so I have some good stuffing inside there. We are ready to close up our carrot. So loop back on the hook. Finger as much as we can to keep that stuffing out of the way. And we're going to do a decrease, just like we have. And I'm not going to bother putting in a stitch marker now because we're pretty much finished. So 2 single crochets and then a decrease because we're already at the other side. Like that. And now I'm going to go around with single crochets. And this you can customize. If you want a more blunt tip on your carrot, you could just stop whenever. And I'll show you how to stop. For me, I want it to be a little more tapered. So I'm just putting in a few single crochets. I'll do 1 more. Just like that. And now I'm going to close it off because I think that looks like a carrot shape to me. I'm liking it. So now into the next 2 stitches. I'm going to start a single crochet into each, so a decrease into the next 2 stitches. It's a bit tricky to get that second one on, but you can do it. And then just finish those together and chain 1. So we have a little bit of a tip on our carrot. We're going to use that to our advantage. So cut your tail, leaving it long enough to sew in with a needle. Pull your hook up and your yarn out and snug that down. So there is the tip of our carrot, but it is open right there a little bit. You can pop out all these stitch markers we use to space out our decreases if you use them. We can massage some of that stuffing up into that tip and thread our needle. And now if you look at that tip, I want to bring the yarn down and back up to keep that tip. I don't want to squish it down like that. I want to keep that tip up at the top. So I'm not going to be using much tension. It's just a carrot. We're not building a bridge or anything. So I'm going to leave that tip up. I'm just going to pinch it so I'm not pulling on that yarn. Just like that. And then I'm just going to go up and back and forth. Give it a little pinch. just to close that tip without pulling too much. There we go. So it's nice and closed. Now we can just sew in our tail. Just bring it down and out the side, making sure we're not pulling. That top knot is still up where we wanted it to be. Now we can cut our tail. Get our stitch markers and crochet hook out of the way. And there is our fabulous carrot. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video up there, and stay hooked.